Hi, I'm Rona Khan, and you are listening to Gut Talks, double G U double T.
Hi, I'm Maria, and welcome to Gut Talks, where we co create a collective intelligence involving both people who are not always in the limelight and those who are, in order to learn from each other and spread knowledge, creative, and critical thinking in the business world and beyond. All I ask is to follow or subscribe to the show and get in touch. It helps me know that there are actually people listening, and I'm not shouting in the void. Today, I'm joined by Rona Khan, founder of Other Dots, an organization transforming Pacific agriculture and trade by connecting indigenous producers to global markets. Rona's story is deeply personal. She comes from a legacy of agriculture and community empowerment in Papua New Guinea, where she's carried that forward, building a sustainable business, focusing on trade led economic growth over traditional aid. She's bridging food security and economic gaps, joined by alliance partners, creating a win win for all, which means community driven solutions to empower thousands of families. A solution that can be scaled, which is the next step. She built all this with no investment, no debt, and almost no tech. So I'm super excited and love this unique story. Thank you for being here, Rona, and I hope the introduction made justice to what you've been doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Maria.
Cool. So let's get into this. The story is fascinating, and I tried to do research, and I didn't find so much online. So hopefully that will be the next step. But my question to you is: your journey is deeply personal, rooted in agriculture and community empowerment. So maybe you can give a quick introduction and set the scene on Papua New Guinea for those who don't know, and then tell us what was the turning point that made you commit to this path.
So, we've always said that anyone who can survive doing business in Papua New Guinea could do business anywhere in the world. Papua New Guinea, or that part of the world, that the Pacific region, is quite a remote, quite isolated, and quite underserved part of the world. For my background, it goes back quite a while actually, since I was a little baby. I'm a legacy. I'm a legacy of two parents, one who is an indigenous Papua New Guinean woman and one who is a foreigner from the UK. And I've always been blessed with having the convergence of the two worlds. I've kind of been seen as a generation that's a bridge between the indigenous world and the Western world and the world with opportunities out there. But I grew up actually as a legacy of incredibly powerful indigenous women. Humble. I don't think they would say for themselves that they're, incredible or powerful, as most Pacific Islanders are. There's a saying, a sweet potato doesn't speak of its own sweetness, which I learned myself actually not too long ago. But so I come from a legacy of five Indigenous women, all sisters. My mother and her five sisters actually started the first women, Indigenous owned women in agribusiness. So they started, you know, the, uh,
It's okay,
they
keep going.
started, sorry, no, there's a banging in the
Yeah,
background.
yeah,
I think
you're
this is.
all fine. Fine.
So they had actually started the first fresh fruit and vegetable supply chain business back in the early 80s. I was still a little baby, fresh out of the womb, but we grew up watching these incredible women with their strong partners. And we were on the back of open back trucks going down the highway with all the picking the pallets where we would harvest and pack. And we grew up basically, between the two worlds of the modern or relatively modern society and the rural agriculture world as well. So we were going between the two worlds ever since we were young, and we watched our mothers and our fathers and even our older cousins who got it. It was very much a family affair. It was first and second generation, and um, just working with agriculture, working in the agriculture sector, working with farmers, rural communities, empowering them to turn their resources, into prosperity, and really just open up the world of opportunities to be self-sustaining or to be financially sovereign. My whole life, we watched that happen. It sort of planted a seed in me, I guess. I don't think it was an intentional seed. I don't think I even realized the seed was planted in me. But it was just something that was, that I was around. The environment I grew up in was very much with the people, with the simple people on the land, and being able to cross back into the more corporate world, the more modern world, was such a privilege for me to grow up that way, because I was able to understand both sides of the pendulum, which really has led me to this place where I am now. I didn't actually realize the significance of the legacy until we'd actually returned, my husband and I, well, not my husband at that time, but he became my husband shortly after. But we both returned back to our motherlands. We're both Indigenous Milne people. And we'd both returned back separately, but aligned along the way in our love for making use of our lands and utilizing the land that we've been blessed with. In Papua New Guinea, almost every single person that is born is given a portion of land. So in Papua New Guinea, 97.3% of our land is still owned by the indigenous landowners of the nation.
Wow.
So yeah, it's quite. But the sad thing is that when we returned home, the land is not being used for that. It has not been utilized, and we saw so many people in living an impoverished life or leaving their rural dwellings to come to the urban centers where they thought opportunity was for employment or income, only to find that it is a very, very difficult environment for people that don't have the right skills to merge into the modern world, coming from a rural background with no education. A lot of them would, I think the average education for a rural dweller would be around primary school or elementary even. A lot of the people that we've come in contact with hadn't even made it past grade 6. So we returning back from the city and experiencing the way that we had been brought up and seeing how in other parts of the country people were benefiting from their land, and the business that my mother and her sisters had started was one of the largest suppliers of fresh fruit and vegetables in the country for over 2 decades, in the early 80s and 90s. It was one of the largest suppliers of fresh fruit and vegetables, and primarily working with people in a different region of the country, not in our own matrilineal land. So for us to actually return back to our matrilineal land, it was almost kind of completing the circle. What had started outside and the experience and wisdom gained from that journey outside, we brought it back unintentionally, to be honest. We had just returned back because it is a very difficult place to live and raise a family. The city became very, very dangerous. So thinking to return back to more of the rural setting, it felt like a wise choice for us. But oh, did we get a rude awakening when we returned back to see that this land that is owned by the traditional landowners was not being utilized. And there were a lot of people that were begging at the doorsteps of government, that were, bowing down at the knees of aid. And it was quite disheartening for me to see, because they're our family. That's, many would say, why would you leave that life and go back to the rural setting? Why would you go backwards? How can we not? I mean, they are our people. We are landowners ourselves. When I say the people, that includes us as well, because we are landowners. We are custodians and stewards of the land. And to sort of say that it's not our problem
Yeah.
just wasn't in my vocabulary.
Yeah.
I can't, couldn't fathom the idea of letting my nieces and my nephews, my children, have such an incredible opportunity, yet have no skill to fully capture the full potential of what they can because of a lack of a lot of things that we had the privilege of being exposed to. So it was almost as if we were returning back to bring the knowledge and experience from the outside and bring it back into our own homelands and start moving and empowering people. And that's what led to the creation of our business, Milne Organics at the time, which is a social enterprise. But it's very much in that sphere. Um, but maybe
Okay.
you probably have a few questions there. I'll
Yeah,
stop there.
I have many questions. So just to that was just a good way of setting the scene. Just quickly, I want to say that you're a profitable business. Actually, you've been profitable from the beginning, not only revenue generating, right? Just to that. And then now you want to scale this like and grow it as well, even further where you are. But can you just tell us um, about the land, just quickly,
Mhm,
like what
mhm,
can you make out of the land or get out of
mhm,
the land there?
mhm. So that's actually why we'd created Milne Bay Organics, because we saw that there was so much unused land, and it's virgin land because it's not been used for commercial agriculture in the past. So a lot of our land is very fertile and very ripe to be planted on. But we would take trips into the rural villages and we would find cocoa plantations, we would find vanilla plantations, coconut. I mean, people were literally living and walking on paths of coconut that is just falling. Um, they're feeding it to the animals, they don't know what to do with it. And we thought, okay, great, coffee farmers as well. We were having a lot of coffee farmers in the beginning. Not many of them actually even understood what their commodity was actually used for. So we had a lot of, one story that always stuck with me that is so special. When we started the coffee business with another cooperative, the farmers didn't even know that the little Nescafe 3-in-1 packets of coffee, they were drinking that in the villages, not realizing that the coffee that it started from was growing right beside them.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we had, yeah, so I took it upon myself to learn, and this is the way that it works. There's not a lot of opportunity to get technically skilled or qualified in these parts. It is incredibly remote, incredibly isolated. Less than 1% of the population has access to internet. And very little GSM network is also mobile network is also available. So access to learn things is also not there. So we took it upon ourselves to learn these things, and we learned how to process coffee and grade coffee and roast coffee. And we invited the coffee farmer down. One of them he's in his 60s, going on 70s, and he'd been farming since he was a little kid, and he tried his own cafe latte from the espresso machine for the first time, and he literally was in tears. He couldn't believe that. And we were saying, "Well, see this packet here of Nescafe? That's your coffee bean inside there." And he was very, very proud, and it was so beautiful to see this. Literally, almost immediately, Maria, the mindset shifted. There was such an ownership and a pride in his resource that he had walked around his whole life and never really understood the value of what he had. So after that experience, we thought, okay, what else can we do? What else can we learn, and what else can we help educate and enlighten people with? So we started learning how to make virgin coconut oil from the coconut, and we would send out training teams, and we would go out in the dinghies. We would go out on the highway on the open back trucks, and we would go out there and teach them how to press their own virgin coconut oil, use it for cooking. It could be used for cosmetic, for hair treatment, for skin treatments. It was used as infusions for herbal treatments also. Um, Vanilla, same thing. We were showing them how to flavor things with the vanilla beans, how to dry them, and the cocoa. So when I made cocoa for the first time, when we harvested our first cocoa from our own plantation, also, I made a first batch of chocolate and made sure that all of the farmers came around to taste it. And you can see the difference that it had. So many people were so proud to return back to the land. They thought that the only opportunity was to get a 9 to 5 or an 8 to 5 in the city, but then to see, just from exposing them to what their resources are actually worth and what they're used for and how the world values it. The pride, people started going back to their villages and cleaning their plantations that their grandparents had planted or their parents had planted, and they started, expanding their farms also in preparation. And from that also we started seeing a lot of SMEs coming through, a lot of entrepreneurial spirit come through. They all started wanting to make their own infused oils and create their own different flavors. And it was really quite a privilege and an honor to be a part of that journey for a lot of them. It was almost a revolution that kind of happened in our communities.
So you mentioned from aid to trade, and
Mhm.
you made sure everyone benefits, including yourself and all the community.
Mm.
Um, is it is it healthy competition growing? How did you unlock new markets for them?
Our part of the country was quite easy because it has not been very well known. Um, but I think we were very fortunate to have that global exposure from the background that we had. So we were able to open that door um, through the experiences, through the knowledge that we had of global market already through our experiences growing up in that space. So we were able to, the thing that you will find in rural settings is there is a lot of competitiveness, and everybody wants, sees another farmer as a competition or another producer as competition. But that's because they're only seeing their own um, local markets. And the way that we were able to, get through that is to make them understand that there is a very big world out there. There is a very big market out there. We led the charge in that when we started Milne Organics. Also, my husband's been in the marine industry as well, doing exports for quite some time. We
Just
had
to
to
say,
start
Mumbai, Mumbai what? Sorry,
Milne Bay, Milne
Limbe
Bay Organics.
or organics is what
Yeah.
is other dots now, right?
Milne Bay Organics is, it led to the formation of Milne SME, where
Okay,
a lot of our, through the work that we had done with entrepreneurs and SME establishment, we then decided to form Milne SME as a private sector group
okay,
who came together to start the model that we had done quite manually, the hard way, in our own personal business, then started to trickle on to other businesses within the community as well. Um, and it became quite an inspiration for a lot of other people to fight um, for our local people as well, by seeing the conversions of a lot of new producers and a lot of incredibly creative products that were coming through the work that we had done in our own business, um, but also the the collaboration of a lot of the other businesses who do different services, not primarily ours, but they were support services. For example, logistics partners, telecommunications partners. We had export partners. We had customs people. A lot of different people started to hover and come together to what was happening, to this change that was starting to happen, because we needed that support. We needed to make it accessible for people to be able to grow. So we ended up forming the Milne SME based on the successes of what we had done in our own private businesses. And we realized that rather than us having to invest in creating new services within our own businesses, that it would have been more beneficial to share the wealth around, so as to eliminate a bit of that competition. Um, Not competition, but we prefer to look at it as an alliance, although some may see it as
okay,
a competitive spirit, which is good. I don't have anything against competition, but to come together as an alliance so that we can all grow together and we can all rise together, so that there's, fairness, there's also equal opportunity, and there's equal growth, and there's no resentment through monopolizing.
okay. So that's a long-term thing. That's a mindset that you help create, where when you profit, I profit, right?
Correct.
Is
Correct.
this the model that you're going with, right?
Absolutely.
Um, like
Absolutely.
right now,
Yes.
but moving forward as well, because I guess you want to expand to other regions also, right?
It's the current model that we use now.
Okay.
Um,
So you
it
have
is,
alliance
and
partners
mhm.
that come under one umbrella, which is other dots, right?
Now it is
Or
evolving
is
to other
yeah.
dots. Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And then it's a win-win for everyone. Going back to the intro.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, we're
And
getting
that
around. We're getting there.
yeah, okay. Okay. No, I just wanna make sure um it's clear. So it was just to understand, the narrative from aid to trade. What does it mean in practice?
Okay.
And that's what it is, right?
It is. So traditionally, a lot of the communities will not even move on their land unless somebody pays them to move on their own land, if
Mm,
it's a government project or something like that, um, because they don't have much.
yeah,
Everybody is in survival mode in this part of the world. And whatever little you have, you fight to keep it. And anybody who comes in to potentially take a piece of, your prosperity, it's not treated very kindly. We had to do a lot of mindset shifting, and we're doing a lot more now as things grow to make people understand that this is an analogy that I would use. In our part of the world, everybody's fighting um, to cut a piece out of the same pie. And the more and more people that are coming in to cut a piece out of that pie, the smaller and smaller the pieces become. Whereas if we all work together and we take on the responsibility of a particular expertise that we have, we're almost creating either multiple pies or a bigger pie that everybody gets a fair share of. So, especially working with rural people, they don't like to collaborate. There's a lot of tribalism. There's a lot of family things that happen customarily through traditional ties and things like that. So there's a lot of invisible borders that exist in this part of the world, and I'm sure in many other parts of the world. But we
sure.
had to break that down slowly by slowly. Maria, the journey's been 10 years for us. It hasn't been an overnight journey. It's been
Yeah,
the gray hairs are showing evidence of the 10 years, but we have we had to get in there and expose them to the opportunities that were out there, to educate them on the value, but also the value of understanding that you as a single farmer on a single plantation cannot possibly cater to the global demand. Once that market is opened up, a single portion of land cannot cater. You will need to expand and you will need to collaborate with other people to be able to ensure that you secure your supply chains, that you are able to supply the demand that is coming and going to grow. So, by exposing them to the outside world and not just your local market, by exposing them to the vastness of the global market out there, and the different interesting products that people are putting out there, and the creativity that's out there, by exposing them to that, they realize there is actually quite a big gap that we need to fill.
yeah,
And the only way we can do that is if we work together. Now, that's what we started in the rural communities. Then we took that to the 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 business houses within our community also. So the first thing was breaking the mindset of the communities themselves, the farmers, the rural landowners, and then taking that same mindset also into the professional world, into the corporate world, by making them also understand that one man is not an island, and if we all need to grow, we're going to have to work together somehow. We may not like each other, we may not agree all the time, but we have to work together, to almost as if it's a baton relay. There's only so much that I can take care of, or I'm going to have to invest to expand into a different area, which is not really my expertise or my purpose, if that makes sense. So rather than me stretching and diluting resources, we partner with the next person who takes on the baton on the next part of this relay. For
yeah,
example, a logistics partner, and then so on and so forth, whether it's a market, um, value added producer or manufacturer of product. We had to take that concept of actually working and sharing that knowledge internally, within the province, within business houses. Now we want to take that to a global scale, seeing how much it actually impacted and how much we were able to grow. And it is, and the business was quite successful. It's still quite successful. Can be more successful. That's why we want. But we've seen the evidence. We've seen the evidence of how um, this patience and this resilience and this determination to break through those small barriers has actually impacted and brought unity to a community and brought collaboration and brought strength into a community that is not only just it's not an emotional thing, it's actually a tangible one.
Mhm.
They're not only benefiting through a united community or united society, they're also benefiting through tangible benefits to resources, increased incomes, more opportunities opening up for their children, etc. And we've seen that this model actually works.
Okay. So I
And we
guess somewhere
believe,
else you have a
mhm,
model. Sorry. So if you want to expand to another market, which is your you want to achieve eventually and build tech around it, because now you've done all the manual work, right? And you know how it works. Would it take 10 years to change the mindset? Just
no. Thank goodness, no. Although we're ready for it. We are ready for that long journey. We're still quite young, Maria, but we're not that old yet. But it would not. I don't think it's too far fetched. Through the work that we have done to expose as much as we can to the outside world, to the opportunities, to the information, to the knowledge that's available out there, it will definitely not take 10 years. And the world is evolving quickly. Many people say that that part of the world that is remote and isolated are not ready for technology. Maybe not right now, but if we don't do something now, they will get left behind. But they are already starting to adapt. And the best and most responsible thing for us to do right now is to educate them how to use it wisely and how to make it a benefit for them rather than leaving it to their own devices to let it see how it goes. So a lot of people have adapted. What we currently use technology right now, you know, what's available in terms of technology there, we try and introduce as many people to it as possible and show them the ease and the benefit of doing that. So I don't think introducing the technology will actually, because we've got experience in that space as well, because we have the relationship and the trust with community, and because we have our own direct ties with these people and with the land and with the environment, we are very well positioned to ensure that the way in which it's introduced and how we adapt and how the community adapt, they are our people. We understand the mindsets very, very well, and we are quite well, we have an advantage being able to adapt our models to make sure that it is quickly and easily adaptable and also beneficial.
yeah, I mean, technology is broad, but we've seen like in Kenya, like M-Pesa was huge, just a mobile phone that was like over 10 years ago. So
Mhm.
um, it's not, it's often the infrastructure that can be
Correct.
the issue, not the tech itself to support people. So I guess it depends. Are you talking about technology in terms of like for farming and so on, or more technology for communication, for uh, business, basically,
Mhm.
um, within other dots, or for the alliance partners who are um, the owners of the land initially? Just in a nutshell, just trying to
All of the
clarify
above.
this. Okay.
All of the above. We do also have infrastructure and access issues.
Okay.
Yes, we do. We The model that we have developed is including the actual infrastructure that is required to gain accessibility. There is also the tools that we are developing, the digital tools that will be used by the supply chain itself, and also access to market and education for the farmers as well.
Mm.
So it is all also including technology for farmers as well, for training and empowerment centers, etc.
Okay. So I have it. So correct me if I'm wrong here. Just a quick one. Your company has trained over 10,000 people and
Correct.
increased local household incomes by 40%. So that was a revealing moment for them to realize that, okay, hold on a second, this is life changing in a way. I like the
Mm,
fact that you're not coming in as, let's say, let's not put names here, but like big corporations who come in and get people to work for less than $1 a day, and
mm.
um, that's a big thing. And you're looking for investment, right, in the next part. So how can you convince investors that this is actually not just revenue generating for you? This is profitable and you're gonna make money.
Profitable in many ways, monetary and also impact through the changing of lives. We have trained 10,000 people, probably more than that actually, but we rounded off at 10,000. Um, and we do everything that we do to push back against the big monopolies that do the dollar a day. The whole purpose of what we do was to actually increase the benefit back to the farmers and also increase the value into the market as well. Um, at the end of the day, there is a lot of land that is that is not being used right now, and it is very underutilized, very underutilized. But the resources that can be produced on this land, there is a lot of labor. There is a lot of labor available. There are a lot of people that are unengaged right now, disenfranchised. The world is in dire need of. They want to know that their food is real. There's a huge conscious consumer market right now that is coming through even more so now in this time with food being printed and etc. Also the consciousness of who the actual suppliers are and are they actually benefiting from our purchase here in the market. They want to know, and through the technology that we're developing with other dots has all of that in mind. Is the traceability, it's the ability for the farmers to also get a fairer price, but it's also the ability for us as producers and suppliers into the market to ensure that the quality is traced, tracked, and also ensure the product is of the best quality once it actually reaches the market and it's arriving at a fair price so that it is not unattainable. There is a the reason why a lot of the food, the organic food or the natural food market, um, is growing, but it's still small because it baffles me that you can go into when you go into a supermarket or you go into a natural food store, you go into any shops, the good food, the organic food, is far more expensive than the other food. The processed food or the commercialized farms, whatever it may be. Um, but people more and more now are actually wanting more natural organic foods. They're wanting to know that the food that they're eating is real. They also want to know that the money that they have spent or invested into these products is actually doing something good in the world. Through the Other Dots mission, we actually want to balance that scale. We actually believe that through the technology, through the connection with the land, through the collaboration of the supply chain itself, that we are not only able to ensure real, traceable, good quality food, but we are also able to ensure that it's affordable in the market so more and more people can actually access good food. Their families can eat healthy foods. So it will be a win-win for all, not only to ensure that the farmers are actually getting a fair deal from their resources that are being sold into the global markets, but also that the people that are benefiting from the healthy food are able to actually access it without breaking the bank too much.
So now you have access to you have all this community, say, and the alliance partners, and the families you said, and so on in this specific region. What stops someone else coming in and saying, now you can work with me, you're gonna make more money, um, and just you know get some or all or a few, I don't know, or none of these alliance partners to move on and work with someone else, um, who probably don't see the world as you do, but for them it would just be making more money and forgetting about all these partnerships they've built and supporting each other, where it's a win-win, going back to that.
Anybody who would come in at this point would have to take another 10 years to break through a lot of these barriers. It's not only us breaking through the barriers, but there's also they have to understand. a lot of nuances about the traditions, about the culture, about their mindsets. It will take, number one, a lot of time, and we've invested this patiently over 10 years. It would require quite a large investment up front if you wanted to go in and go straight from 0 to 100 overnight. Um, by all means, anyone with the right amount of money could absolutely start a business. But whether it's sustainable and whether the community actually adapts
Yeah.
to it or receives it or trusts it is a very different story. What people don't understand about the Pacific region is we have had so many empty promises from not only our own people but from external parties. There is a level of um, can't find the word for it right now. There's resentment, number one, because there's been a lot of broken promises. Um, there's been a lot of information that has come in, or a lot of stories about how they're going to do everything, but nobody actually ever fulfills what they say that they're going to do. So there's a bit of skepticism around anybody new. What you will find in this part of the world is, if we have not seen your face in the last 10 years, or if you have not, you don't even know my name or my family, you don't know us, you don't know anything about our culture, a lot of people tend to keep you at arm's length, and you've got to
Okay.
do a lot of things to try and break through those barriers, and or you may not be respected in that community, therefore your business may not necessarily, your operations, your team may not necessarily be safe in that community either,
Yeah.
if that
And
makes
and
sense.
yeah, no, it does. Yeah. And I guess there's a huge network effect right now
Hmm.
that's catapulting you to the next stage, I guess, right? In that sense.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. It's almost growing more than we can actually handle, and this is why we've
Okay.
um, I mean, with a 10-year journey, it hasn't been easy.
Yes. Yeah.
It has not been easy. But we have come so far
Yeah.
in 10 years, and we have a lot of people that are behind us and that are almost relying on us to make sure that we can grow this. Where we are right now as an organization is at a bottleneck. If we don't open up the tap to the other side to allow these things to flow through, to allow the people to flow through, to allow the resources to flow through and to grow in that space, we're going to just have more people pushing up against, that bottleneck, and creating a lot more tension. There is currently a lot of tension already in the country. For such a resource rich part of the world, you have some of the most poorest, impoverished people that are living in circumstances, situations, environments that you wouldn't even wish upon your enemy. And the last thing anybody needs right now, as tensions are brewing more and more daily, because people have now seen what's happening and seen the opportunity that's available, but it's almost as if they're on the other side of a glass wall. They can see it, they can hear it, but they can't touch it. And what's happening in our society is that the tension is just growing. Now we're starting to fight against each other. So for us, it's actually the demand that is pushing us to grow.
The
We have
internal
taken
demand.
them only the internal demand to grow, and also the external. We're kind of caught in the middle of these two worlds right now. As exporters, as producers of value added products, we have markets constantly asking us for more than we can supply, and we have farmers who want to supply more than we can take, because there is something missing in the middle of all of this, and that is that conduit that allows the tap to open up and flow into the right directions right now. What is happening is that the market is disconnected from the supply,
Okay.
because of the isolation, because of the remoteness, because of the level of distrust, to break through certain barriers. We've brought them to the gate, and the market is here at the gate, and we're in the middle, and the other dot's mission is basically my life's purpose, to ensure that we remove those barriers that are holding both back from each other, and allowing this cohabitation, or this conduit, to connect market to farmer to supplier, and take it into the market. I I don't know if I'm ready for another 10-year journey, Maria, but unfortunately it is my purpose to do that, and it is something that is on me. Um, no matter how far and how fast I try and run from it, there's
It,
something in me that says you can't, Rona, you can't go from this. This is a part of your legacy. This is a part of who you are. It's part of your DNA. Even when I do try and run, something brings me back in, and that is bringing this team together, the other dots team, who finally get it. Oh my gosh, we've been so blessed with some of the most brilliant minds, not only from the global stage, but from within our own communities as well, that have decided to actually come together to build this foundation, this conduit of that now finally connects the two missing pieces together and allow both sides to benefit from it.
so this is where I guess technology will play an important role because you spend 10 years to create this trust because there's a lot of crime, and maybe if we have time we can go into this. It's important, but maybe it's nice to also dangle the carrot for those who want to learn more, but
Absolutely.
it never
If you
doesn't.
dare to learn more. Mm,
So, and you managed to overcome all these hurdles, including crime and so on. So people trust you there. People are coming to you. They want more. But where you're
mm,
exporting, they're ready for more and they're begging for more. Let's not forget the whole ethical side of it as well, and
yes.
on
Mm,
all ends. So this is where you have this foundation, as you said, and technology will take this even further. And then you will be able to scale, as you said, into other territories because I mean this could be great in many parts of the world without naming or I'm not an expert in that field, but we know that there's a need for that and there are lots of remote areas. So you will be able to export, let's say, this model, correct? And you won't
absolutely.
need 10 years to build this trust because you would be coming from a story and people relate to stories in these
Mm.
parts of the world, I guess. So um the question I have here is like, where do you export? Where are your, let's say, primary markets, and who's asking for more?
So our primary markets are Asia, also Oceania as well. So in historically we've exported to about 10 different countries,
Okay.
um, into the UAE, into Abu Dhabi. We've had partnerships there, into Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Malaysia, China, quite a few different, Korea, Japan also. And a lot of the demand is actually coming from those parts of the world as well, not only to purchase the product, but also to you form supply chain agreements. They themselves that are also demanding also produce value added or high value products. We have one in particular that I'm really, really super excited and I can't wait until we actually get that going. A hospital, a pediatric hospital in Australia. Our virgin coconut oil that we produced has some of the most, it had some incredible results when it came back from the lab testing, that will be able to help infants with malnutrition or, children that are born prematurely, mothers also in recovery. We're working with doctors in one of the hospitals in Australia now who will be producing this, the the virgin coconut oil, a product that or byproduct from that will be able to assist in that as well. We have chocolatiers, people that are doing craft chocolate in New Zealand that are requiring our supply of our cocoa to be able to cater to their markets also. We also have larger manufacturing factories as well that are requiring coconut oil, coffee, a lot of cafes around the world. Just one of the interested parties, which we unfortunately had to say no to because we didn't have a choice, wanted about 200,000 tons of oil, coconut oil, virgin coconut oil every month.
Every month.
um, every month.
Where did you
Every
store it?
month I was,
Sorry.
what are you going to do with it? um, and we have other orders of the coffee because I think number one, our part of the world is not really well known in terms of the market. You do hear about a lot of the Asian suppliers and manufacturers, but you don't hear too much about. It's almost exotic. A lot of people know about Fiji, but there's a whole other part of the Pacific that many people don't know exists. And if if not bigger. Why Papua New Guinea? Because it is the biggest Pacific Island nation, actually. So why we're starting in PNG is because of that, because the demand that is out there, PNG has the land available to actually supply, but if we can connect the dots together, like my pun there, if we can connect the dots together, and be able to take in the education, be able to take in the infrastructure that is required, be able to take in the tools that are required for the farmers to be able to produce and take it out into the market. Now, with the technology that binds it all together, people are able to get visibility into these untapped parts of the world that have some of the most richest and beautiful products. And they taste really good too, not to be biased, but they taste amazing, because our land has not been commercially farmed. That's the beauty of this part of the world. It is virgin soil, it is virgin territory, and um, there is a lot of it available. We have at the moment in Papua New Guinea alone, I think 7 million hectares of arable land allocated for agriculture. There's about 36 million hectares that is unused,
Unused
and
completely.
that's unused completely. Unused completely. A lot of. If you actually fly over the country, you will see nothing but virgin rainforests, and a bit of spots here and there of agriculture land. So what we've been able to achieve over the last 10 years has been using very little. I mean, a lifetime revenue, not only on the land, but in this using the marine resources as well. So we have land and sea, which is beautiful. Um, we were able to achieve, a lifetime revenue of 19 million using less than 1% of the land that is actually available to be used. The potential to grow beyond that is huge. 19 million from maybe about 1% of that land. It's probably only 10,000 hectares of land, or 14,000 hectares of land, to be able to achieve those types of revenues with such little utilization. Imagine if we unlock the 7 million. And that's what Other Dots is trying to do, is
Yeah.
unlock that 7 million and then unlock the 36 million, to and allow the people that actually own that land to be able to run their own businesses off of their own land, to be able to be direct benefactors of the resources that are coming out of their land, um, and to be able to supply the markets. We could oversupply the UAE, for example. I know that the UAE has a lot of food shortage, and water shortage issues. Some of the calculations that I had done, I think we would be 120, I think it was 120 million tons annually,
Annually.
above the surplus that we could, or the deficit that we could be supplying. If we were to unlock the 7 million hectares of land, we could be oversupplying many parts of the world, not just the UAE, into parts of Asia, and to many of our suppliers that are demanding as well. And that's, again, the technology allows visibility, it allows traceability, it allows transparency, and it is going to allow confidence in the market. What happens right now is that the reason why it's so slow and so slow burning is because a buyer doesn't have visibility. They don't know where their money is going or if it will ever come back, because they cannot see the supply chain. And this is, so a lot of us that are in the country had to invest up front as a show of confidence, or to earn trust that we will, if we can bring it this far, then we've guaranteed the security for you to purchase it from us, right? Right now, a lot of people won't even invest in that part of the world because there is very little visibility. There is very little traceability, and the lack of services around finances, around electricity, around transportation. It takes a lot longer than it should. And in between that process, also, the global market is going to be very, very worried. What if I invest 1 million to buy a couple of 100 tons from you, and I want it by next month, but it takes 6 months to get it to me? What happens there is they're losing money. Also, along the way, the product is degrading along the way because of a long, slow journey. So with Other Dots, as we bring the technology, we bring the infrastructure that gives accessibility to the technology also, and we bring partnerships that allow, um, the services that are required to speed up access and to increase visibility. And also then this now has a triple bottom line. The community are benefiting, you know, children are benefiting, parents are benefiting, families are happier. They're able to have the financial freedom, but they're also able to protect their way of life. Also, they don't have to leave their traditional lands anymore. The opportunity has come to them in the lands that they were born and raised and want to die in. A lot of them, you know, they don't want to leave their lands, but are forced to because there's no opportunity. We're taking that opportunity that allows them the freedom to choose now. You can choose to stay in the land that you were born in, that will feed you, that will look after you. And we're also now giving the confidence for a buyer, um, because when we say we're going to deliver it in a month, they're going to be able to see that it's coming, it's on the way.
Yeah.
With a lot of the technology that has already been developed, that is partway developed, that we need to sort of bind together. We have a lot of partners in this alliance who are incredibly, such a blessing to have them. They are so well versed in this space. They're so experienced, and some of the things that they're creating, I'm so excited, and I just can't wait to bring it all together and give people access to these things that are literally going to transform their lives.
There is a background noise. Can you hear it?
There's a storm.
Oh, there's a storm. Okay.
There's a
it,
storm.
it's okay.
Is this not a good time? Should we?
Um, no, I think people will understand, I guess, because that's gonna last for a while, right? The
It's gonna
storm.
last for a while.
Yeah.
It's gonna
Okay.
last for a while.
Okay. So whoever's
I feel
listening,
like
there's
I'm.
you're in Malaysia, right? You're not in Papua New Guinea.
I'm in Malaysia. I'm in Malaysia right now. But even in Papua New Guinea, it rains like this, unfortunately. But when
Well,
it rains in
fortunately for the
Malaysia, it
land.
pours.
Fortunately.
It's good for the land. That's why we
Yeah.
have such good soil. It's well irrigated.
So that's very interesting, actually, what you're saying, because now I'm piecing it together and understanding that this whole groundwork, your work you've been doing for like 10 years, you have this trust. And now, as soon as you can, it is technology is key, but it's not only technology, it's to transform all these processes and supply chain and so on. But you need technology because you have people ready. So as soon as you can unlock new parts of, let's say, the land, right? You
Mhm.
have people ready to come in and start taking orders, basically, and start working, start farming, right?
Absolutely. We have
So,
farmers already farming, and we have buyers already buying at small scale. We've been blessed that they're patient with us.
yeah,
Again, the story matters. So being able to communicate, a lot of them are quite patient with the process. They also, it's no secret that this part of the world is lacking in a lot of things. So we do have people ready on both sides of it. We have people that are already providing services in the middle that will be connected to this platform, to this system, the digital ecosystem that we're developing. It's almost as if we are, just turning on the lights, I guess. We're and connect, everyone can then start connecting in where they need to connect, and bring it to life.
and
It's not a hard start. This is the next evolution of a manual
yeah,
supply chain, of the supply chain that it already exists, just taking it to the next step with the modernization through digital technology.
yeah. Um, right, I have a few questions here. So, like, what a journey, number one. I guess the next chapter will be even more interesting, um, because you will have other kinds of challenges, but the foundation is there. You know how it works, and this is key. You're not just, I'm all into experimentation usually, but you just know what needs to be done right now. Of course, you will be experimenting in some other areas, but the foundation is here, and this is what matters. Um,
Yeah.
how was it to find your first, let's say, order? Do you have a story here? Like, who trusted you?
Actually, it came from our own land. We have our own plantation. Um, okay, there is a story behind this actually. Our
Okay.
first coffee order, when we talk about an international market,
Yes. Oh, it was coffee then. Your first
It
order
was
was coffee.
coffee. The
Okay.
first the first step into agriculture for us was through coffee, and we had I don't know if we have time, but he's probably going to kill me if I tell the story anyway. But
No, no, I don't want you to be
again,
killed.
so it's again a legacy story from my dad, and because he was the CEO of the Port Moresby Chamber of Commerce for about 20 years, and he, you know, a lot of international associates and connections, right? And actually, the buyer from New Zealand had heard about this Milne Bay coffee where we come from, and they had sampled a small sample of it through one of the cooperative farmers that we had worked with, and they had sampled a small part of it. They decided to take a trip and come on an exploratory trip to
Oh,
Milne Bay, where I am from, but I didn't know about this at the time. Actually, to be honest, I didn't even know we had coffee at that time. But he'd come into the country, so there was already a sort of a demand there. People were having to fly in to figure out how to get it, and they had no cultural knowledge. They had no local connections. Fortunately, somebody knew my father and called and said, "Do you know anybody in this part of the country that that can connect us?" And he said, "My daughter's there." Um, so they connected us together. Little did I know that the Beltian coffee, which is one of what's been sold off since, but Beltian coffee is one of the biggest. I think they do the Tetley's tea. They a huge coffee supplier into the global market now, and were at that time. They had actually sent their coffee taster to Milne Bay to get this coffee out, and they didn't know anybody in they didn't know anybody. Somehow I was connected with them, um, and it took about a year again. We weren't able to connect them to the farmers at that time. We were very greenfield in that space, also because we had no idea that coffee even existed. So it took us about a year, and then somebody had heard about what we were trying to do. What we would, because we'd started with the commodities that we had in our own plantations, and word had spread around these people are doing something in this space. And the coffee farmer, who actually was the person who sampled the coffee with the New Zealand team, actually found his way to us somehow. So we took a plane trip. My husband and I took it upon ourselves to go and repair that relationship again. This is, you know, kind of giving you an insight into just how far we have to go. We actually flew to New Zealand to meet with the CEO of Belty and Coffee and all his team. As a show of solidarity, and we took some coffee with us too, just to, and repaired that relationship. And they were very, very willing. Um, and they were the first people to take an order from us. But unfortunately, it wasn't all happily ever after. It was actually the beginning of a very, very long and painful journey, because we didn't have the infrastructure available in Milne Bay to export directly. We had to pay for all of the farmers to bring their commodities down from the mountains to us in the main urban center near the port. And just to give you a background on that journey, some of them had to have their bags of coffee flown out by the local missionaries. Some of them walked them out, or we had to send a boat out. Um, so a lot of the farmers were actually carrying their bags out on foot, on their
wow.
backs. You know, the kids would carry 15 kilos. You know, it's a family. Family will divide the coffee amongst them to get it down to the jetty where they could get access to the next mode of transport. So they're walking 3, 4, some of them 5 days with coffee on their backs down mountains through delta rivers that you cannot cross after midday because the river swells so much. In one year alone, some of those rivers will take out 5 to 6 people every year. Will lose lives from people crossing those rivers every year. But families were walking through. They have to stop along the way. They're coming down mountains, cliffs. Literally, you're holding on to the edge of the rock face, and there's just a ravine beside you while holding a bag of coffee on your back. And they will do this journey for days, completely barefoot, mind you, no shoes, no hiking, nothing. It was all just, so the kids would carry small bags in a billum, the traditional bags. The women will carry them on their head, and the men will carry them how they carry them. And they'll all make their way up and down like this for days, just to get to the next where they can get access to a boat. Now, when they get to the jetty, it's still not an easy. There's no schedules in this part of the country. There's no boat schedules. There's no terminal where you can wait and book a ticket. It's get there and hope to God that somebody sends some next mode of transport for you. So what we had to do to supply that order was, number one, pay for the carriers to bring their commodity down to the port. And we have to pay for storage. They pay local communities, houses, just if even if they just gave them food to say thank you for letting us spend the night here for the next journey tomorrow. And they'll feed them whatever they feed them, and then they'll come down and they have to store them up. Once it's stored up, now a boat is not going out unless it has a reason to fill up the boat. They're not going to go and come back empty. So they have to take as much commodity as they can, store it in a location, and then hope that a boat will come. Some of the communities will wait 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks. I mean, they'll wait months sometimes until the next boat will come in that is big enough to take their commodity out. So what we had to do was coordinate all of this journey now. So we were coordinating and paying for the carriers to bring them down to a local, to a central consolidation point. And then once there is enough, we will then send the boat in to collect and bring it back to us. Now, because there is no infrastructure available to process for export, there's a particular way that you have to process it in order to be able to be approved to export it directly out of, and you have to have export licenses, etc. Because there was nothing that existed at that time, we had to then pack 2.5 containers, 20-foot containers of coffee, and ship it to another province, which is going back inland again. I had to then fly. This is the funny story. This is a very long story. I'm so sorry. But I flew to the next province because they don't open the container unless you're there to witness it. I had to fly to the next, and I was on my way to New Zealand to meet with the buyer on the other side a few days later because we'd already sort of pre-prepared it. So they went to the next province, which is Leh, opened up the container. I got in the morning at 6:45 in the morning on the first flight, and I got out on the last flight, straight from the factory, opened it up, put it through the machines, and I got back on the plane. The next morning, I got on a plane to New Zealand to go and meet the buyers on the other side. But here's the sad part about it. And we had to fund all of this ourselves. There was no government funding. There was no funding from any of the buyers. We had to we went out on a limb here because we believed in what we could do, and we believed in the people,
And the
and
people
we
believed in
felt
you
that
as
we had,
well. I
I
mean,
guess so,
to,
yeah,
you know,
to come all that way.
yeah,
Yeah. So we were, yeah. So unfortunately, by the time I got to New Zealand, after they had actually, because of the length of the journey,
yeah,
it had taken months to even get it, and different conditions of storage, different modes of transport. You're coming through water, you're at salt water, you're on the ocean, you're sitting, it's hot and it's cold, the moisture. It actually degraded the coffee so much that it was exportable, but for our debut, I made a judgment call that was not going, the subpar quality was not going to be the one that we introduced into the world market. So we weren't able to actually then export it to the first buyer, unfortunately, which sucks because I'm sitting there with them
yeah,
to tell them I'm not able to get it to you. But fortunately, they understood the journey. We're not an isolated situation. This is a common story across most parts of the Pacific, even Africa and even Asia.
yeah,
So it's not isolated. It's not a unique story to just our part of the world, but it is part of our journey story also. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of money, tens of thousands of dollars we lost. A lot of time was lost, and yeah, it's a hard journey to get it there. But they've stayed with us, and they're still willing to work with us. Even I think it's 5 years later now.
yeah,
They're still patient with us because I think they have heard enough about this part of the world to understand. And this is the kind of partnership that we really need. And you were asking earlier about what if somebody who had the right amount of money
Yeah.
that could invest and come in overnight. This is the kind of journey you're going to have to endure, and this is the kind of losses that you're going to have to be prepared to make. It's not something that an investor who has common sense, it's
Yeah.
almost as if you know that you're going to lose money in the beginning stages unless you're very, very well prepared.
H-
So,
have you got this part sorted now or not yet? Complete, like the whole journey, the whole supply chain from like ups and downs
we
of
have
it.
improved it. We have improved it, but again, again, like I was saying, we've invested a lot of this ourselves. We've been able
Mm.
to improve through the communications by creating that farmer network. So
Okay.
now they know where to go and they know that they have a guaranteed buy if they come. There's communication prior. We've been able to improve the communication. It's still not good. It's still the current mode of communication is either by phone, where somebody has to climb a mountain, or if our boats come in through a spot where there's signal, we will get a call from somebody. But we do have the boats that are working together with the community. There's a network that's already been built, but unfortunately, again, because of the lack of infrastructure that supports um, good communications or
Yeah.
accessible communications, it's still limited. But we do have the facilities now where we're able to take in, it's still not at scale. Again, we've not received any investments, we've not taken out any financing on it. We've slowly by slowly just sort of, this is why it's taken 10 years, I guess. But we've invested everything we make from the profits we've put back into developing the property and investing in infrastructure and equipment, and building out those farmer networks. We do a lot of training with the communities. We do a lot of help with SMEs that are service providers, and help educate them. So the network is there. Unfortunately, there are certain things. If we had the investment, if we had the money to fix those problems that would unlock,
Mm.
that would make it a lot easier, we would. But that's not an investment that we have to make. We don't have that kind of money um, to be able to just overnight invest and change that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's where we
And
need
this is why we need those
external.
partners,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Partners.
exactly. And our governments aren't very responsible with their development, like, unfortunately, that's another battle that we face. The governments currently see us as competition, not as an ally. They,
Okay.
a lot of what we've faced along the way through what we've tried to do together, either somebody from the government feels threatened by what we do and they come in, they actually compete against us, which is an interesting story. If we set a price for buying, so we were able to, through the coffee projects that we had initially started with, we had taken the price from, I think it was a kina, so it's almost like 25 cents a kilo of coffee, and we had taken it to 5 kina, which was like $2.50 a kilo. And then a year later, we were then able to double that. We took it again to, I think it was $5 a kilo. So just we were able to do that in such a short amount of time working with these communities. That's, the income increased so much in those communities. Instead of the government working with us, they competed against us. So they raised their price $1 over ours, but didn't realize, unfortunately, that it's we were setting our prices. We reverse engineer everything. Having the business acumen and having the exposure and the understanding of global market, you go to the market and you find out there first, what is the demand, what is the pricing set at, what can we negotiate first, and then work your pricing back to ensure that it's profitable and fair. What they weren't realizing is, because they're not using their own money, that they push the price, too far up, and they ran out of money to keep buying.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so they ended up doing themselves out. But it was quite sad to see that rather than investing in creating strong allies and allegiances and networks with your own business people, your own local business people, they use the money to fight us instead of work with us. And
Yeah.
these are sort of daily challenges and this is why, again, people will ask me, why don't you go to government and why aren't you collaborating? We have, and this is exactly what happens. Rather than becoming a strong allegiance, we become, you know um, competition with each other. And this is where this is why we've decided to evolve away from Milne Bay SME as the private sector association and go commercial and make this an actual business that is profitable in order to be self-sustaining, and to take this into the, to invite an international or an external partner who understands the journey and understands everything, the nuances and everything that we will have to endure. So there's patience there as well. There's also empathy and understanding. And this is why we're actually looking outside of and have had the approach to the global evolution in other dots, to take this, to make this an opportunity for people to be part of something that's bigger than just money making.
Yeah, yeah, that's you know a few things here. So you're beyond. You're not just agriculture. Obviously, you're agriculture, health, goods potentially, right? You said there's so much land left, so you're not
Yeah,
limited to cocoa and so
yeah,
and coffee and so on. So, but that's another topic, just to show the potential of the opportunity. But you have lots of data. I mean, you're telling me things here, and I'm like, yeah, you are collecting data. Are you keeping track of everything? What could you do with the data? Because that could be another angle that can be of interest, not only to investors, obviously, but to potential partners, to industry.
absolutely. The facts don't lie and the numbers don't lie either. It's not just about making wise investments or investing into something that has a good opportunity to grow. Um, Beyond the business side of it, we are now able to create relevance in terms of development. What By having the facts and having the numbers and having evidence in front of you, rather than flying blind and investing in development projects that have no actual measurable impact, through the data that we've collected, through the evidence that's measurable, we're now able to guide any development agency, anyone that's, whether it's government or a foreign development agency, whatever it may be, we're able to actually guide them in the right way through evidence, facts, and impact. That doesn't dilute resources from where it should really be impacting and where it really should be reaching. And that's a lot of, the journey that we see now, is that you've got a lot of people that have never lived in the country, have probably barely know anybody outside of the city center or outside of their offices, and they are developing policies, they are developing projects and initiatives, but have never even been into the communities they're trying to implement it. As far as I'm concerned, it's money wasted because they never take off. Um, or it's boomerang money. It goes back to whomever the consultant was. They get paid,
Oh, of
but the
course.
community don't get the impact, right? Don't get me down that rabbit
Yeah,
hole,
don't get
Maria.
me started. And no, I mean, you mentioned empathy before, and this is key. You've been there,
Mm,
you know how people
mm,
think, you know what they want, you know what they expect.
yeah,
You can anticipate also what would come after, and this is important. And this
yeah,
is one of the reasons many businesses fails and not fail. Not
mm,
so many businesses fail, not NGOs or like whatever, because this is, as you're saying, movement of money and so on. So we're not gonna get into that conversation, but
mm.
um, this is quite important, and I think this is what gives confidence also. Because I wanted to ask you a couple of things here. You mentioned quality, so you do
Mhm.
quality control, and
Yes,
this is key part of what you do, right? Because you want to be up to the promise and deliver what you're set to deliver, and you're not gonna ship anything and this is how
yes.
you're gonna keep, because many don't do. Again, I remember I can't remember where I was, but we were I think I was at a jury at university or something. They were talking about saffron and different types of
Mhm.
saffrons, and you have, let's say, high end and then entry
Mm,
level and so on, and then you can cater to different markets.
right.
Um, so all this here between the quality and the ability to go into different industries and the ability to use the data. I mean, that's something you could monetize also. Going back to the fact that it's a painful journey that you've been through and it's a difficult one. Um, what would give the confidence to someone to want to join you, regardless of all the hurdles,
Mhm.
and see that beyond the impact, Because let's put it straight, like people want to make money, not just impact.
Mhm.
It is the way it is.
We
If
do
you have
too.
yeah,
We do too.
yeah, I know, and that's why you shifted. You made this a business, right? You were
Yes.
not just because it should make sense to everyone.
Yeah.
In a few words, how would you give confidence to someone to join, to be part of the journey? Why should they join? First of all, you don't want anyone. You know who you have as an ideal investor or partner or both,
Partner, yeah. Mm.
and what would give them confidence.
This is bigger than money, obviously. Although money helps and we understand the importance of investment, we understand the importance of money because it gives us the power. We see that it's a tool, it's a resource that can be used to do incredible things. It gives us the freedom to do things the way that need to be done.
And it makes
Um,
money. It's not just money is
it
important. Like
makes money.
for you, it's
Yeah,
given. It's not gonna be
yeah,
losing money, right? From what you've seen, and with
correct.
less than 1% of the land.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the reason why many people have lost money on the journey, Maria, I won't lie, because there hasn't been the wisdom. The business acumen was not there. There was no experience. Um, so a lot of them saw something that could work, but didn't have the business acumen to go in and actually survive this journey. They were not prepared for just how hard or just how expensive or just how long. And that's the difference that we have, is that we are very, very experienced in this space. We've spent 10 years living and breathing this with the people. We are the people. We're not solving problems for an external party. We are the people that need these solutions. We are the people that have run these businesses, that have worked with the farmers, that are farmers ourselves, that are service providers. We're not creating a solution that's just an experimental idea. We've been operating in this space for 10 years, and we have seen where the breaks in the chain are, and we are actively developing a solution that we ourselves want to use. So we're not this is not experimental. Maybe the way in which we may do things later on, or things that we may offer on these systems in this supply chain or in this digital ecosystem, may evolve over time. But the fundamental key things that we are developing are to solve our own problems. There is a guarantee that it will be used, because not only are we creating it and taking it to the market, but we're also using it. It's
Yeah,
a benefit. Yeah, so
and your
it's
numbers prove it,
relevant.
right? You said,
And the numbers prove it. Absolutely. The numbers prove it. I mean, with some of the statistics, okay, so 40% increase in incomes, that's an average. It's probably actually more than that. It's anywhere between 40 and 60% increase over time. You've got 70% increase in women and youth um, actually participating in the local economy. Um, 90% of of crime in the communities that we operated within, just by going in and creating more or different opportunities for people to be productive and feel valued and a part of something, 90% of the crime decreased, or crime decreased by 90%. When we're at the height of our operations and we're right in there, it shows us that people want something different. They want to be a part of it, and they are doing a lot of these things because there's nothing really else to do. There's no other opportunity. So it's sort of forced, and good people are forced to do bad things. But fundamentally, they're good people, and they're talented people, and they're skilled people, and they're hardworking people. By exposing them or just taking in an opportunity to their backyards, they participated. Society issues, substance abuse, domestic violence, things were shifting. People were now valuing each other. We're not just putting money into pockets. You're giving value to the human being now. They're creating, not only are people valuing each other, but they're valuing themselves. They feel that they're part of this world, and they feel that they're not just another number on a spreadsheet. They're actually um, valued, they're worthy of life, and it changes something in a community. We're not only changing incomes, but we're changing the societies that our children are being raised in, that our women are working and walking and living in every day. We can bring balance to a society. Of course, we can't fix 100%, but at least we're trying to do our best to put a good dent in it, where people can finally, not only have money in their pockets, where they have the freedom to choose which life they want. If you want to go to that school, if you need to get healthcare, there's money in your pockets now. If you want to build that road, if you want to build a school, if you want to buy your own boat for your community, you now have an avenue to do that. We are now giving you a pathway to do that. And you are now able to take, we claim to be independent society, sovereign nations, but we're not free because we don't have the power to determine what our future looks like. At the moment, everybody is sitting with their hands out, begging at the doorstep of whomever. People are dying unnecessarily, and there's no value for human life anymore in a lot of these places. There's very little human life. When we talk about tribal wars and crime that's happening, lives are being lost unnecessarily. I don't want to get too gory about it, but they're happy to chop each other up. We're not just making money, although the money we know is very important. We have to make that in order to be able to have the strength
You
through
are
the
already making that,
resources
right?
we are making, but we would like to make a heck of a lot more, because the thing is we have to be sustainable. We have to be wise as business. As much as we want to go out and invest and fix all of these problems, what happens to us? The businesses don't exist tomorrow because we've taken out of our own business um, accounts to solve societal problems. If we don't exist as a business anymore, then who is here left surviving to help those communities? If the government fails, I mean, government benefits if we're growing as businesses anyway, because the taxes will increase, obviously. There's
Yeah.
a lot more cash flow in the economy. All of it's good. But again, if we kill our businesses by trying to solve issues on our own, um, that really is not, we shouldn't have to, but unfortunately we do. But it's, we can't do it as fast as we want to. We know that we can fix a lot of these problems if we had the right support to do it. If we had the right resources to do that, we could take a lot of what we've done to far more people, not just in our country, not just in our region, but across the globe. Anybody who who is within this sphere could absolutely participate and benefit in it.
Yeah, I mean, one the story you shared about people walking 5 days and so on. I heard similar stories for milk in Kenya. So
Yes.
there are. This is why I was saying people relate to stories, and that's where this trust
Mm.
could potentially come in. So you kind of answered my question. I just want to make sure that this platform supports in case in case an investor listens to this, or I don't know.
Mm.
Um, since I know you guys are not much online, but if an investor, I don't know if you're looking for an investor or debt financing or whatever, but whoever joins today, just giving money, let's say, w- what do they need to know about how this business scales and generates
Mhm.
return?
Okay. So we are a supply chain business. Other Dots primarily is actually a supply chain, and how we like to look at this, um, the model in which we operate our organization is a fully vertically integrated supply chain that is empowered by technology, or bound together as technology being the glue that holds the supply chain together. When I speak about vertical integration, we own the entire supply chain, or connectivity of the entire supply chain. Farmers or resource owners and suppliers, service providers, the manufacturing, where we actually purchase, consolidate, downstream and prepare for export is all within this same organization. We also then are able to, within this same vertical line of integration in the supply chain, we are not only supplying to external buyers who also are manufacturers themselves, but we are also producing products within our own alliance, within our own partnership as well, where they're able to take our raw commodities and create incredibly, craft chocolates or our own branded products that can retail into the markets directly. Again, giving us power over the financial side of things. If we're able to control retail pricing, we're able to determine the profitability and the fairness back down to the buyer, rather than relying on third-party pricing or global commodity pricing, which fluctuates, right? So and beyond that, we then want to be able to franchise this out as well, whether people are retailing our products, or you know B2C, C2C, is it C2C? B2B, B2C. I can
Sorry.
never get those terminologies right.
Yeah, me
But
too.
eventually be B2C, C2B, there's a D2, C2B, I
Yeah,
don't even know.
yeah,
But
yeah, direct to
business
consumer.
to
Yeah.
business, consumer, business to consumer. We have everybody within our alliance is already positioned in these strategic locations. And the scalability, we already have market demand and we already have the ability to produce something that the market wants. This scale, and right now it is sitting at this scale that we have right now, where we have $33.8 million worth of orders just sitting there that we can't um, we
Fulfill.
can't unlock just yet without the critical um, parts of our supply chain being upgraded or scaled or improved right now. But the scalability in that is, not only are we investing into buying more from farmers, but the more that farmers are able to produce, the more we're able to run through our machines to be able to export into the global market. And then the more markets we're actually able to cater for and service as well. Listen, no one's going to stop wanting food, and no one's going to stop wanting, water, uh, and no one's going to stop wanting education, and no one's going to stop wanting opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And as far as other dots, our focus is creating opportunity for people. It's creating market. It's growing and scaling to the point where we're able to service much larger markets. So there is absolutely room for growth. There is, I just don't think we'll be able to grow fast enough, to be honest. And we've already experienced this within a short amount of time of launching a smaller version, this manual version, and this smaller scale version of that. We outgrew it within less than a year.
Okay.
Um, and again, like I said, it doesn't look like the trend of food is going out anytime soon. I
Mhm.
mean, it's a no brainer, right? People are going to keep wanting food. And I know that also land is becoming more and more scarce, that's available. So beyond just our farmers growing, there's the opportunity also to take on contract farming as well for, some of the locations that have already outgrown where they are currently farming. They may be looking to expand their supply through contract farms and partnering with our local landowners to be able to expand their farms and their particular crops into our locations also. Um, but beyond that, also just the idea of we want to franchise this model, this vertically integrated. It's the tangible plus the intangible, the technology, the digital ecosystem that connects the whole supply chain, um, and also the physical infrastructure that gets deployed into these communities. We are packaging that up into a very neat package where it's literally coming ready to go. Just add people, um, almost in a sense where um, the technology that we've developed is either going to be available by licensing or software as a service. Subscription models will become available. We want it to be accessible to as many people as. I don't know if you know Grab at all. Do you know Grab or Uber?
Yes, yes, I know
Uber, I'm
Grab.
sure.
I
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
know Grab.
Grab in Malaysia. Of course, you lived in Malaysia. So
No,
Malaysia,
I didn't. But,
Oh, you
I
didn't?
did a
Oh, sorry.
workshop
Okay,
for, yeah, no,
somebody else
I
lived
know
in
Grab
Malaysia.
in Singapore. Yeah.
Okay. So, oh, yes, Singapore. Yes, Grab's in Singapore. So, if you can think about the Grab network and how it works with restaurants and taxis, and this is Grab basically for rural development, where you will be able to connect boat, your boat, your boats, your dinghies, your trucks, the carriers that carry things out on foot. People are able to order directly in specific products. Everything will become, available on this, and we want to develop that to the point where it is licensable or available by subscription as well. So beyond just the tangibles of the physical supply of food or commodity or resource, the technology itself is scalable as well. And it
Yes.
is adaptable into multiple different areas as well.
How about the people? I think that would still be, but when they will see, that they can do something out of it, how would you keep control basically on the quality and of the products and get people to trust you? But yeah, you're taking a different angle here. But yeah, just quickly, I'm just thinking out loud.
I might be giving away some of our trade secrets, Maria. My chairman may not be too happy with me. No, I'm kidding. So, again, because of the local partnerships that we have, our alliance partners already operate within these spaces with the farmers. And the model behind Other Dots is to place, well, we've already identified and we already have a lot of people operating, but are not resourced to be able to do this well or to be able to expand it. Um, we will be putting infrastructure into our farming communities, working with our partners that are currently already on the ground, that are either our rural training officers or currently running cooperatives. We will be working with them to put infrastructure in key strategic locations that we know are already producing, and use that as an advocate for the expansion around amongst the other farmers or local communities. But also it's an access point, um, rather than them having to go 160 kilometers to find us for training in town. They're able to go to an empowerment center that we will have, and we want to expand these empowerment centers all over the region. The more empowerment centers, the better, as far as we're concerned. This is becomes the number one point of contact for other dots and for farmers. So we are able to, link them to the digital learning, to the digital transformation, to the market information, to training, technical training if they need it. And we connect with the rural trainers and the facilitators in those communities that we have already had a 10-year relationship working with, some of them even longer. And there's strategic locations that we will work with first to empower them with infrastructure, with resource, and they will do the training, they will do the first quality checks for us, and ensure that nothing leaves that location, and or no money is spent to transport something that is subpar. So we're also preserving the community from wasting finances or resources to transport it when they don't know if the quality is sellable.
So it's completely end to end, basically. That was my question, and this is what you want to license, actually, or okay, that's you know, I, I've done many interviews, but I also worked with a lot of. I mean, that's not a startup. I mean, it is in a way, but it's more than it's. I don't know how to explain it, because you're fundraising, but you're at this stage where actually there is less risk, because I'm not going to say there's no risk, because
Mm.
it doesn't make sense to just say that, but
Mm.
that seems like, usually when someone wants to fundraise and so on, especially in this kind of space, there are lots of challenges, but it seems like you overcame a lot, so that sounds like a great actually opportunity um here. So yeah, I mean, good luck and congratulations on this whole journey. I hope that was not
Thank
too much,
you.
but I have one last question for you.
Yes,
Do you trust your gut?
absolutely. I wouldn't
Okay.
be here if I didn't.
Okay. Okay.
I wouldn't be here if I didn't. Yeah.
Okay. That's
That's an interesting question.
well, that's the name of my business, and God Talks, the podcast. It's always a question I always ask,
Ah,
actually, because
okay.
I do trust my gut, but I learned to trust it late. I
Ah,
I not yeah to listen. Let's say to my God that
mm.
took me years to trust. So yeah, so that was my question. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. I was like you. I didn't at first. I always try to ignore the gut feelings and try and over intelligentize. Is that a word? It's not a word.
Yes, it is.
Overthink things with my intellectual mind. But the more and more what we have endured and what we've gone through, and the evidence of that gut feeling, it's sort of in hindsight, you realize that's why I had that gut feeling.
Yeah.
And over time, you learn to trust that more and more and more, because every time you ignore the feeling and something comes to fruition or comes to pass, you're like, ah, okay. So now you don't have a choice. Now it's just become, yeah, I 100% trust my gut.
Thank you so much for this, Rona. I mean, I
Thank
enjoyed this
you.
one, and if someone wants,
I know I talk so much. I'm so sorry. There's a lot to share.
there's a lot to share. Indeed, yeah. I was trying to. Yeah, I mean, I've done episodes over an hour, so it's fine. Um, my other question is, if someone wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
You can contact us via our email, which is connect at otherdots.world.
Okay,
So connect, CONNECT, at other dots with an S dot world.
that world, or you're on LinkedIn as well. Is it?
And I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me via my personal LinkedIn now at the moment,
Oh, anything you would like
which
to
is
add?
Rona Ronacon.
Ronacon. Yeah, I'm gonna put in all the links description. If there's
Okay,
anything
thank
else
you.
you would like to add, let me know. Something I didn't ask you about, you really wanted to say.
I think I said a lot, Maria. Other than thank you. Thank you so much for allowing us to be here with you and share our journey story. And I do hope that it does compel people out there, or it does let people know that there are good people out there that want to do a good thing. And um, if you've been looking for a team, a dream team that is not only experienced but passionate and committed and has an incredible heart for people. I mean, the Other Dots team. I'm so blessed actually to lead this team. I feel very underqualified to do it, because some of the people that we have, but it's almost a Lee Kuan Yew situation where he finds people that are smarter than him to run the country. I feel like that's Other Dots. There are people that are way smarter than me, but it's a privilege to be able to find other people. But this is, joining Other Dots in partnering with. We're actually looking for We are actively looking for partners, um, who are looking for that triple bottom line result, and who want to do amazing things. Something I also thought about earlier on is that at some point, real food is going to get harder and harder um, to get access to, and we can't afford to wait to be reactive. There is an opportunity to mitigate that risk. There is an opportunity to get prepared for a time that may be coming. And this team is here, and we are actively out there trying to do the right thing for the next generation. And we would love to have partners that believe in the same thing that we do, that have the same conviction that we do, and join the mission with us. It's a transformative one. And yeah, we can't wait to meet whoever wants to join this crazy team of people. But it's fun. We're great people and we're good fun. But we know how to get the job done, and we'll have a laugh along the way. But we know how to get the job done, and yeah, it's a privilege. It's actually a privilege to be even blessed to be able to do something about it at all. I know we can't fix every single problem in the world, but we're certainly making a good attempt at it to fix whatever we can within our own sphere.
Yeah,
And
that's
hopefully
a
the
great
world will
message.
benefit from it, Maria.
No, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you. Thank you for having us on Gut Talk. It's been a privilege.
Okay, thank you.
That was long. I'm so